I'm going to recount the events of the last day here while I mull over what I have to do. "Don't move, you son of a bitch. Don't fucking move," my Uncle Tito screamed, his hands clenching, his firearm pointed directly at my head. The veins in his neck bulged with stress and his face was damp with sweat. "Don't make me do it, Danny. Don't make me." His low, guttural grumble echoed through the now empty house. His hands of the tattered grandfather clock pattered away, amplified by the tense silence. The only other sound was that of the wind, the low, chilling whoosh that ruffled through the grassy field surrounding the house. He must have found them, the bodies of my twin cousins in the barn, their clothes drenched in red. A pitchfork through the chest of cardo. I tried to tell them, but they didn't listen. They wouldn't. And now they're gone. They should have listened, Danny. Written in the blood on the floor before them. I could hardly believe what I was seeing. My name and admission at the bottom in bold red. Why? "Tito, wait." I could barely speak. "What do you think you are?" he seethed, voice shaking. "I just want to know, why did you do it, Dan? Why?" I could hardly speak. My blood ran cold and my throat like gravel. The silence was interrupted by a loud pounding on the door. A muffled voice called out from behind it. "That's the police. You're going away, Danny." "One moment, officers. He's right here," Tito yelled towards the door. His gun still pointed at me. He was oblivious to the danger that we were ensnared in. Oblivious that no cruiser had pulled up. There were no sirens or lights flashing. The muffled voice from behind the door called back again, still just as unintelligible. "Tito, wait." My hushed growl not conveying the urgency. "Danny, just shut up," he said as he turned, the deadbolt with one hand, eyes and gun still locked on me. "Tito, no," I said, my heart pounding. The moment he turned the knob, I sprinted towards the basement. "I have him right here off." His words were stopped dead, instantly erupting into screams. He yelled painfully, his body jerking forcefully towards the crack in the door. In his haste, he hadn't unlatched the chain. Whatever was outside was pulling him through the impossibly small gap between the door and the frame. My uncle's howls reverberated throughout the old house. I peered through the crack under the basement door in horror. "Danny, help!" Tito screamed as the ghastly, blackened hands grappled him. I heard several shots go off, but my uncle's shouting continued. I knew any attempt at help would be fruitless. I tried to tell him, just like the rest of them, my cousins, the mailman, the neighbor, and now my uncle. Whatever was out there wasn't human. I sobbed quietly as my uncle was forced through an opening much too small for him. The screams grew louder and louder until eventually they stopped. "Tio," I said in disbelief. I crept down the stairs just in case they were still there, outside listening. The first one to go was the neighbor. It happened right before my cousins arrived. I wasn't going to tell them. Nobody would have believed it. That was until the mailman showed up. I thought it might be okay. Maybe. But then came the sounds of agony. I explained to them what happened earlier with the neighbor. I hadn't actually seen what happened with him either, only his desperate cries from the field. I told my cousins it was ridiculous. I told them it was way too dangerous, but no. Carlito was military and Pablo was a black belt in martial arts. I scoffed bitterly at the thought of that now. Whoever's out there, we can handle it, Pablo said reassuringly as they went to the post in the barn. That's when they must have called Theo. And now they're all gone. Why didn't we just call the police? The police, Theo, must have called the police. Suddenly, I heard the doorknob at the top of the basement stairs start to rattle. The hum of the wind began to turn, even though through the small space at the base of the door I saw no one. It began to shake violently. I felt my blood run cold and nearly fainted. But then the shaking stopped. Next was the bustle of tires down the drive and several car doors slamming shut. The scuffling of boots on the gravel and then their clacking against the wood patio. Come out with your hands up. The chain locking the front door was smashed open and heavy footsteps shook the floor above. One of them tried the knob. I covered my mouth and held my breath in fear, not sure what to do, still afraid of whatever was out there. Then the wind began to rumble again, growing louder and louder into a roaring crescent. I heard several dishes clash and the crash of furniture from upstairs. What the fuck is that? The racket only lasted a minute. A canopy of a bullet storm above, the sounds of hundreds of casings hitting the floor and bones snapping like celery. I waited in panic for the inevitable. For the door to fly off its hinges to greet me with the abyss, though it never came. I've sat here for what seems like hours, replaying today's events in my mind on repeat. It doesn't seem real. This can't be real. Whatever is out there isn't something I can deal with. It took down the police. It's not just some brutal creature either. It's cunning and malice. It must have known Theo would find my cousins in the barn. It framed me. For no other reason than some warped, sadistic trick. I'm gonna puke. I don't have my phone down here, and there's no way I'm going up to get it. But I can't stay in here forever. I'm petrified. Writing this post as a record of these events is all I can do right now. But the problem is, I need my phone. Because if I don't get it, within the next day, my parents and kid brother are going to return home from a family vacation. And if they do, when they do, I can only pray that they don't meet the same fate as anyone else who has stepped foot on this property in the last 24 hours. Still, no matter how many times I tell myself that I can't bring myself to make it up the stairs and turn that doorknob. I've tried now, several times, standing there, fingers on the handle. All I could do is turn the handle. But I can't do it. But I have to. If I don't, it's the only way I can reach them. They aren't tech savvy. I don't think my parents know how to turn on a computer, let alone use email. It took them years to even get a phone, and that was strictly for emergencies. Well, now this is an emergency. But if I go upstairs, I might as well kiss my life goodbye. So then what do? Any minute now, they could roll down the drive, blissfully unaware of the gruesome fate that awaits them. Of course, I have to go up there and get my phone and call them, there's no question. But I just don't know what to do. What am I supposed to do? I'll find the courage any minute now. I have to, but I'll just give it one more minute.